It's a You Good episode this week, and I sit down with Ian Bell, who is a herbalist. He is a natural healer, natural therapies. He's a practitioner, has been doing it for 25 to 30 years, super passionate. This conversation is so educational, so get the notebook out because Ian breaks down 3 key things we can do to prevent injury to our joints and treat joint injury. He also outlines why we should be taking vitamin D tablets every single day and lots of them. He links anxiety disorders to magnesium deficiency and why we should be taking more magnesium and the right type of magnesium. He also discusses sleep and how purposeful breathing practices can improve the quality of our sleep, why we should be walking barefoot as well, much more. It's super interesting. I learnt so much and you will too. So enjoy this week's episode of You Good. Well, Mr. Ian Bell, thank you so much for being on the show. This is out of my comfort zone. I've never had a herbalist on.
Herbalist, yes.
Health enthusiast?
Health enthusiast. I think everybody's a health enthusiast.
You think?
I think so.
I don't think so. I see a lot of people not respecting their health at all.
Everybody's eating well. I've got a great diet. You talk to people, I've got a great diet. And you go, okay. And it's so relative. But yeah, I believe everybody's got their own footprint, or not footprint, but blueprint of what living healthily is.
Interesting. Until it goes bad.
Yeah, but even when it goes bad, they go, it didn't work. I'm doing all this, it's not working or whatever. People are following a path and, walking that path with a lot of, not persistence, what's the word? Intent and, intensity and all that sort of stuff. But it's when it doesn't work, they go, maybe my view maybe is not right.
Do you think it takes something bad to happen before they get that realisation?
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about life journey and all that sort of stuff. I talk about Olivia Newton-John. I don't think anybody will know Olivia Newton-John, but I remember watching her on a show, and she's saying, "I'm really thankful for my breast cancer." And I thought, what do you mean? And she talked about it, and I still didn't really understand, but if you have something that gives you a very acute picture of whether you're feeling good or whether you're feeling bad, you can go, all right, well, I changed this and I'm feeling better. And that's, I think, a useful thing.
Do you think a lot of people live their life feeling terrible and don't actually know what it is like to feel good?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that's the adaptive range of what we are as humans. When we're working within our adaptive range, things are good. When we fall outside that, that's a different thing. So, in reality, we don't necessarily feel unwell. But, things like dopamine. So dopamine is what you get when you go into your phone and you're death scrolling and all that sort of stuff. But dopamine is also getting out and doing your weeding in the garden and all that sort of stuff. But the dopamine will push all those other, I'm not feeling great, to the side, and make you feel good. Very addictive, though.
Right. So people go looking for things that are going to keep spiking their dopamine.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, and yeah, truly, but what I was saying in terms of if you're not feeling well, if you can get your dopamine going, that falls outside what your thought process is. It just becomes more about what you're trying to achieve. And
So tell us about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Ian Bell. I've been involved, had a health food shop for 25 years and not necessarily as passionate as I am now. When I opened, it was just a way of getting by, which I think's all right, but it's just grown into this thing where I can't imagine ever stopping now. I'm part of a co-op which is called Go Vita, which is about 120 stores throughout Australia, which I really, really enjoy, and I really enjoy what I get from it. I'm really enjoying what I'm able to put back into it, having been part of the scene for a while, and people appreciate who I am and what I do and listen to me. And and it's interesting, in the shop, people listen to me in a way that no one else does ever in my life. So the whole idea of someone saying, "Hey, Ian, come on my podcast," and going, "Oh, really? Do you really want to hear me?" But yeah, I love it. King in my own shower recess. Lauded, really. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I love it. I can't imagine ever stopping. I think I might have said that before. Yeah.
So you started it as a business model,
Yeah.
a way to make a living.
Yeah.
And now?
Yeah, and it's not about the money. Like I'm at an age and a point in my life where I could stop, but and that's that dopamine thing as well. No, I can't imagine ever wanting to stop because my life would just lose pretty much all its meaning.
Purpose.
Yeah.
So you found purpose through this.
Oh, absolutely. But I think you can get purpose from, I don't know, I'm going to say swatting flies or whatever. No, you can get purpose from lots of things. But I feel like that I'm making a change. Making a change, and for the individuals that are coming into the shop, but making a change also, I think, in ideally the health profile of Australians and maybe the world and all that sort of stuff, because I truly think the non-pharmaceutical model is the way forward. Generally people, up until the last few years, everyone was very excited if they could find a non-pharmaceutical approach to things, and people would be lauded. Oh, look, you managed to avoid the drugs. That's great. And I think, in reality, if you can have a lifestyle and things that will support you within that lifestyle that aren't pharmaceutical, that's great. But it's not like that information is actually very freely available. I mean, it is, and particularly in this time of AI where so much information is coming out. But I think that's where we as people in those health food shop communities are somewhere where people can actually check in and go, "Hey, I've read all this stuff. What do you reckon?" And lots of ways up the mountain, they all lead to the top and all that. But being able to say, well, this is my perspective, and having done it for 25 years, it's I feel like I have a perspective, but it's one of those things people come in and say, "Oh, have you heard about whatever this is?" And I say, "Oh, no, I actually haven't." And I guess I'm reasonably careful about what new things I allow into my scope, because I think it becomes whatever that is becomes the next thing that you just talk to everybody about. But I try and keep it reasonably simple, while trying to keep an eye on those things.
I guess, can you share some, maybe pivotal moments or experiences that solidified this journey and this commitment to this field of work?
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of a customer or a client where you've seen a significant change?
It's interesting because in a retail environment, you don't often. So you don't know. I'll sit down and I'll have a conversation for an hour with someone, and because I'm doing that regularly and I'm not recording it, which is part of the joy of working in a retail environment, because it's all care, no responsibility. But people go away and I'll take some of that advice or take some of the stuff that you suggested, and they'll come back and say, "Oh, that stuff was great." And I'll go, "Oh, I can't remember what it was that we're talking about." But it's just built up with those relationships with all those people over that time, where you get enough of that to go, "Oh, actually, maybe I'm doing all right." I don't think we like to put tabs on ourselves, and I become suspicious when I start putting tabs on myself, because generally that's an indication that I'm setting myself up for a fall or whatever. You go, "Oh shit, I didn't know about that," and "Oh God, what have I done there?" and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the person by person dramatic change where they go, "Well, this happened and that happened." No, just giving people things like curcumin. You're saying you're old, I'm older than you. People get aches and pains and all the rest of it, and I'll very often give people, I say, "Oh, you got some aches and pains." I'll come in for something else, and I say, "Well, yeah, I'll give you some curcumin. Give that a go." Curcumin is quite amazing, one of the most heavily researched herbs that we've got. But it's all about inflammation. So if you've got a sore knee, that can be an indication of inflammation. But if it is an indication of inflammation, that inflammation is affecting pretty much all parts of your body. So inflammation of your brain is Alzheimer's, inflammation of your arteries is high cholesterol, inflammation of your heart is cardiovascular disease, inflammation of your bowel is irritable bowel and all that sort of stuff. So having curcumin will actually work with all those things, but people are seeing that as part of joint pain. They go, oh, hang on, which comes back to our earlier thing.
Right. Wow. So, okay. This is where I can feel the information starting to flow. So are you sort of saying that curcumin is a real foundational herb that has a multitude of positive impacts on someone's overall holistic health?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you
anti-inflammatory is the main word there.
Yeah. But if you have a sore knee, you're not going to go out and skate because you go, oh, gee, my knee hurts, and your joy of life and all that sort of stuff drops. And like I said, I'm older than you. If I'm in pain, I feel like I'm 90. If I'm out of pain, I feel like I'm 20, and I feel I can do anything. So it changes your whole mood, approach to life and all the rest of it. But curcumin has been shown to work better than ibuprofen, which is your Nurofen and all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't rip your stomach to pieces and all that sort of stuff. It's a very easy thing to have.
Okay. So is curcumin, it's a part of the turmeric type family?
Yeah, it's a compound within turmeric.
Okay.
And because I'm trying to show people research papers and things like that, I was looking at something, and turmeric, there's a paper that says turmeric might be good, but it really doesn't work in the same way as curcumin. I had a woman in her 50s, and I guess, this is the sort of thing that you're asking for, came in and she was having a dessert spoon of turmeric, and to get the curcuminoids, you need to warm it in oil, you need to crack black pepper through it. So she was doing all that, a dessert spoon of curcumin every day, warming it in oil, having the black pepper, and finding a way to get it down. And again, I just said, oh, here's some capsules, which I just give out in little baggies. Said, try these. And she came back and said, oh, I can't believe I didn't do this a whole lot earlier. So even like a dessert spoon of turmeric for her wasn't the same as taking the isolated curcumin.
Right. So this is, okay, so these are little nuances that I think a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, for sure.
So it had to be mixed with black pepper.
But black pepper. So if you're buying a supplement, generally you'll find it and it'll be referred to as piperine or whatever. Often they'll put the black pepper, but apparently increases the absorbency of the curcumin. I used to say 1,000%, but somebody else told me that it's 2,000%. I haven't seen the paper, but increasing the uptake of the curcumin like 20 times.
Okay. So it's hard for the body to absorb, but it's a foundational herb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because look, I just want to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry.
Look, and I guess to put it in context, I'm really interested to speak with you for a variety of reasons. One, I really value health.
Yeah.
Two, I know, and you just raised this point, when I'm injured or sick, nothing else in my life works. My mental health falls away very quickly, and I can't do the things that I love.
Yeah.
And, it's playing with my children, it's skateboarding, it's surfing.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I've realized that, health is wealth more than ever.
Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to have you on the show. And also, I guess, a large population of the audience are into action sports that listen to this podcast. So, I want to, find out ways we can create some longevity, prevent injury, maybe heal from injury, things like that.
Yeah.
But I just love that straight away you went to curcumin.
Yeah.
So that's for you. You feel like that if people have that on a daily basis, it can be a very good preventative.
No, I mean, you're having it as a preventative against long-term issues, but basically it works like having a Panadol or something like that. You have it, you get the pain relief when you're having it. I have silly amounts of stuff, but I do have a curcumin a couple of times a day. Mm-hmm. Inflammation is not our body's friend, and if you have inflammatory processes, generally that's how more chronic and more dramatic diseases occur, because you've got that inflammation driving different things. Our cells don't work well in an inflammatory process. So, it would be a preventative, and that's it. But generally I'm just having it for joint comfort.
Joint comfort.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not the only thing I do, no.
What else do you do for joint comfort? Well, because that was actually, joint injury, joint pain, ligament strains, cartilage issues, especially knees and ankles, are huge for skateboarders.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah.
So Okay, while we're on the topic of joints,
Yeah.
what can we do for our joints, our knees and ankles? Hey, so it's come to my attention that 83% of people that listen to this podcast don't actually follow or subscribe, which kind of means that every time they listen, they have to search it up as opposed to the show being in their show list on their preferred listening platform. So, for example, Apple Podcasts is one of the most popular ways that people listen to this show. You click on the purple icon on your iPhone and go to the show, and you can hit follow. Same on Spotify, and I also now upload all audio episodes to YouTube so you can listen there. So subscribe. It's kind of how it all works in this day and age. I don't often ask people for calls to action, but it does help the show. It helps me expand. It helps me get the messages of my guests as far as possible and kind of give them the respect that they deserve. And I feel a deep sense of responsibility there. So do me a favour, hit the follow or subscribe button and support THT. Thanks.
Oh, and obviously keeping the muscles around them supported. There are things that you can take, specialised collagens, and they will actually help your collagen repair. Like
Peptides?
Peptides, I don't know much about peptides, but I'm sure they would.
Because collagen's a peptide.
Yeah, all protein made up of peptides. All protein made up of amino acids. All the amino acids are made up of peptides, and those peptides are what basically constitute. I'm sure there's a word that I'm trying to word.
Constitute?
Nice work, man. Constitute those amino acids which make up those proteins. So, yeah, you have different peptides which would make up the different amino acids that are part of your collagen, and, it'd be different to if, the peptides that make up the amino acids that make up the muscle or the steak or
So take collagen.
Collagen, I think it's great. Yeah.
Regularly?
Yeah, but
if you're not injured?
Yeah, well, collagen, we've all got leaky guts, and the thing is that collagen is all those bits that we left over when we harvest the meat from an animal. Basically, they get what's left and they boil it up, and you get the gelatin, they turn into collagen. So your joints are good, skin's good, your whole gastrointestinal tract is good, but collagen's also helping you sleep. I'm not sure what the process is around that, but yeah, anything that you can help you with your gastrointestinal tract is going to help all those things. But yeah, collagen will support your joints.
Okay.
But what I was talking about is there's very specific collagens that I have. One's an eggshell collagen, so they actually get the membrane from eggshells and they process that. So it's like a vegetarian collagen, and you have a little capsule in it. I've seen the graphs on it and stuff, and it's pretty dramatic in terms of what it can do. I also have something called just green-lip muscle, but a very specific one. And again, I look at that as being another form of collagen, which supports your cartilage and supports your joints and anti-inflammatory and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, any collagen is good. And because I work in a shop that sells a whole lot of supplements, I think of supplements. But any collagen is going to do that and support your joints.
Okay.
But I think it's not just about the stuff that you have and all that sort of stuff. It's how you treat your joints. For me, people look at your cartilage and your ligaments as the definitive things which will determine what your knees or whatever are doing. But they're like the bump stops at the end of the station. What you're looking for is that core strength across the joint, like proprioception.
Mm-hmm.
Like proprioception is basically the way that the body feels the ground. So if you're doing bowl work or whatever, your body's feeling, or your feet are feeling every little bump that
unconsciously,
subconsciously, but each time you do that, it's sending a signal back up to the brain, and it's actually helping the core strength across the joint. So it's the core strength that's supporting the joint. It's the cartilage and the ligaments that support it when it goes past the level of the core strength.
Okay.
So your cartilage is a cushion, and obviously if you're trying to rail ride four flights of steps or something and coming off at the bottom. Obviously, your knee has to work really hard to do that. I guess probably not quite unless you twist a leg or something when you come off your board in a bowl or whatever. It'd be a different kind of thing. But yeah.
So generally if someone blows a ligament out, that's like you said, that's the final stop in a whole chain reaction of events. So you're saying that start with the core, strengthening the core.
Yeah, and proprioception. So
and improving your proprioception, which can be done from my understanding through like balancing core balancing
and all that sort of stuff. I had a sore elbow. I have sore things, and like I said, I'm always looking for things which will stop me being in pain. But I had a sore elbow. I play a lot of volleyball, and it just got to the point where my elbow was hurting when I wasn't playing volleyball, and I thought, well, I should stop, which I did. And I got some acupuncture, and it's better. But I have these insoles that I put in my shoes that are like that dimpled ping pong bat. And I started wearing them about 5 years ago because I had a sore shoulder, and the shoulder pain went away. Because you're feeding that through the soles of your feet, and basically all those muscles are working, and so that's working on all your fascia.
Like the old masseuse sandals?
Masseuse sandals, yeah.
So those things can work?
Yeah, but I mean, they're super intense. But yeah, and I have looked at that, and I haven't actually got to the point of doing that. But when I first did it 5 years ago, I caught a bus and I walked from the interchange to the shop, which was like a 15-minute shop, 15-minute walk, and I worked in the shop for 8.5 hours. And then I went home, and I just came home and I was just completely knackered just because all that feedback and all those muscles working was just big. And it was interesting because over time you wear them, they get, the little knobs and wear off and all the rest of it. And you go, oh, yeah, I'm all right. But I started wearing them again. I got another set and got them up and put them in. And again, first day I wore them, I couldn't keep my eyes open at the end of the day just because it's working so hard. But all that working is working across the joint and supporting the joint.
And activating your core muscles.
Core and your fascia.
And it's all firing.
Yeah, it's all firing. So if you imagine if we were First Nations or whatever, walking around with bare feet and all that sort of stuff, a huge amount of feedback from the ground, and basically that's happening automatically. But we're all walking around with Vans with 1-inch soles and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We're not in contact, so we're not getting that connection. But doing that, I think, is a super useful thing.
Can I share a story?
Yeah.
I fractured my ankle. Yeah. And I was very blasé about my health, didn't care, didn't get anything done about it. Just said, a hairline fracture, I'll be right. Thought I'll just heal it myself. Yeah. But kept drinking loads of alcohol, eating whatever I wanted, processed foods, refined sugar. Yeah. And this thing just was swollen constantly. I was in constant pain, just wouldn't heal after like a year. Yeah. And then next thing you know, synovial fluid leaked into the crack, turned into an osteochondral lesion. Wow. Which meant surgery. And they had to get in and they call it defiling or something. They grind out the bone. Then they drill holes in the bone so it bleeds and grows more bone in that spot. It turned into a 6-year injury. It still wouldn't go down. And then I went to this one doctor who was the only doctor after seeing all these doctors. Yeah. He goes to me, I said, the swelling just won't go down. He said, and he was the first one after 6 years of seeing doctors. What's your diet like? Wow. And do you drink alcohol? I was like, yeah. He's like, you've almost got a form of gout. Wow. It's like, maybe stop drinking alcohol and see what happens. Yeah. And I did. Yeah. And then I started going, hang on. And then I started researching about walking around bare feet. Yeah. Started walking around bare feet. And within 6 months, my ankle was functional. It's still never going to be the same because I didn't treat it. I didn't look after it properly. Yeah. So that was actually what sparked my own personal health journey.
Yeah. So you go, having a buggered ankle for 6 years was really bad, but you got the lesson and you changed your life. And suddenly you're here interviewing me about how to live healthy and all. Yeah,
well, I didn't expect you to talk about barefoot stuff.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I
love it.
I do love barefoot, and I wish I could do barefoot, but I need to do it with someone that knows about it. Cause
what do you mean?
I just keep bruising my feet, and because a little bit's good, a heap more must be better, and all of that. So I don't know.
So you can do too much of it.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm older than you, but I just keep on bruising my feet, and you go, and I rely on my mobility and my physicality and all that sort of stuff. And I go, shit, have I done it now or whatever? But yeah, I need to go on a journey with someone that can work with that, because it's not just about taking the shoes out of the equation. It's a whole lot more than that.
Okay.
And I guess that's what these dimpled inner soles are. Or
dimpled inner soles.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to recap. So far you've sort of dropped some knowledge around curcumin, which is curcumin, which is like a form of a part of the turmeric family.
No. So curcumin is a compound within turmeric.
It's a compound within turmeric.
Turmeric has an orange kind of colour generally. The bright yellow that forms that is curcumin.
So just taking turmeric's I've heard is a good
amazing. And food is medicine and all that sort of stuff. But if you've got an acute something that you're trying to get changed with,
this will get curcumin.
And generally it's about dosage. I mean, there's different ways that people, there's different brands say, mine's great at uptake and all that sort of stuff. I think the piperine is the biggest thing, and this is only my personal view. But people say, we have the such and such microdynamized technology and all that sort of stuff, which I guess I look at as a bit more sizzle than sausage. It's but yeah, curcumin, but make sure it's a reasonable dosage. So I have 600 milligrams of curcumin twice a day with the piperine, which is the black pepper.
Okay, so reduce inflammation in your systemic inflammation through curcumin, which is indirectly going to assist any joints, joint pain. But that's
inflammation in your joint is pain, so it's a really good motivator for having stuff. Yeah,
but it's doing more than just that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And collagen recommended. Any particular type of collagen? You were talking about the egg.
I mean, that's very specific.
But I know there's like bovine collagen and things like that.
So bovine just means from cow. So we got heaps of it. Most of it comes from Brazil, and I think that's generally fine.
Okay.
Conceptually, there's different length peptide chains in the collagen. So everybody say, I don't want to look young. But a lot of people are going, I want the collagen. The collagen, it's conceptually of the smaller peptide chains is better for supporting skin and counteracting wrinkles and all that sort of stuff. But there's different ones that help with your bone density and all the rest of it, which I can't imagine much of your crew would have an issue with, because they're doing lots of weight-bearing exercise and all that. And it's definitely not the only thing. But yeah.
So you have referenced collagen, and then you've also referenced the importance of developing core strength.
For proprioception.
Core strength.
Yeah.
I think that was it. So there's three things to think about there. Curcumin, collagen, core. The three C's.
Ooh, that's right.
Three C's with Ian Bell.
And generally that's inexpensive. No, and I saw you had your collagen over on the shelf.
You notice you're very observant.
I went, did you buy that for me? You don't have to buy it.
I didn't. I bought it from a different health.
No, it's good. It's all good. But yeah, sorry. I think it's one of those very easy things to justify. Yeah, and then there's other things which I would suggest are more basic. Like I think the whole world should be on vitamin D and magnesium. But
why?
Well, vitamin D is involved in every part of our immune system function. And I realised a long time ago that it's not a cold and flu fairy that gets us in winter. It's the fact that our vitamin D drops because we're unable to get the same amount of sunshine that drives that. But what I didn't really concept is that when you have an infection, or if you have any inflammatory processes, because basically the inflammation process is a different part of that immune system function, or you have an acute infection or a chronic infection or whatever, all the time that you're fighting that, you're depleting your vitamin D. And if you don't have enough vitamin D, your expression of that virus, or, the fact that you'd get the next virus and all that sort of stuff is super important. But, there's things like people in Hobart have 6 times the allergies of people living in Cairns based on their vitamin D status.
Wow, what a contrast.
Women living south of Coffs Harbour have double the incidence of breast cancer compared to those living north of Coffs Harbour, again, based on their vitamin D status. I was in Australia, these are all reasonably arbitrary levels, but they talk about, saying if you've got 50 and up to 75, you're in the right kind of range for your vitamin D. The thing being that if you have one infection at 75 nanomoles per mil, there's a reasonable chance that you'll actually drop down to 50, which is a dramatic deficiency with one infection. In reality, and most of the people in our industry will suggest that you're looking for about 120 nanomoles per mil.
And vitamin D.
Vitamin D. And very, very hard to have too much, which I'll go into later on. So, yeah, lots of reasons. It's interesting because everybody wants to be, skinny and strong and, all that sort of stuff. But there's research, it was a mouse model, but research showing that if you can get above 75, you're turning your fat into muscle, you're stronger, your leptin increases, so you means you're feeling fuller earlier and all that sort of stuff. But that only happens when you're above the 75, which they're saying is enough in Australia.
Oh, okay. So just to recap, so if you do have high levels of vitamin D,
yeah,
it's actually
I would say just normal levels of vitamin
normal.
D.
But you're saying that can suppress or reduce your hunger threshold. Is that what so then you feel a desire to eat less.
Yeah, improves your leptin.
And so you're less likely to overeat.
Yes.
Because we all overeat in our privileged society.
Yeah, but it's also a stress response. We eat because we're stressed because
it's a distraction.
Oh, yeah, but it's also, you have to be in your parasympathetic nervous system to digest. So when you eat, it actually anchors your anxiety. So, if you can avoid the simple carbohydrates and all that sort of stuff, which kill your leptin sensitivity, and have some fats which actually improve your satiation and all that sort of stuff, yeah, you will feel anchored. And I'm that too. I'm a bit like you. I'm just a skin and bone and sinew.
You look strong though.
Yeah, and I feel strong, and it's interesting because I feel as strong as I've ever felt in my life. Which is good. But what's
as strong as you've ever felt in your life?
Yeah, which is interesting because
Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
I'm 60, but
Wow.
when I hit 40, I thought, geez, I'm old. I'm 40. I'm hitting the best years of my life and all that sort of stuff, and then you hit 50 and go, oh, I'm old, and you're waiting for that. And I think if you can remain out of pain and all that sort of stuff and remain active, but
do you think people say that as a cop out? As an excuse so then they can just don't have to try as hard?
No.
Why do they say it? I said it to you today. Oh, I'm old. I'm 48.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about being in pain. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's a fear. I lived my whole life. In my 20s, I travelled a bit and I made a very conscious decision to go and settle down and have kids and all that sort of stuff because I didn't want to be that 50-year-old hanging around at youth hostels, not knowing when it was time to go home and all that sort of stuff, because it's very easy to fall into that. And I thought, responsibility will bring me in. So, that was up until 50, and then 60 I go, gee, I don't want to be a lecherous old man. I don't want to be that guy that it doesn't know what the inappropriate things are to say and all that sort of stuff. So aging gracefully has always been a big focus of mine. But, yeah, I truly think that I'm living my best life at 60.
You don't look like the average 60-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm interested in you.
Yeah. So vitamin D maybe, but keeping active and finding ways of keeping active that are easy. I didn't talk about it, but, I blew out my knee when I was an 18-year-old.
Skating? Kickflip to 10 stair or something?
No, my skating, it was only ever a form of transport. And when I ripped the toenail out of my foot because I was riding barefoot because that's all I could really concept. But no, I blew out my knee. I landed on it playing soccer and blew it out backwards. So I blew my cruciate. So when you hear about people having knee reconstructions, which I guess lots of skaters would know about, I didn't have the reconstruction because I went and saw the orthopaedic surgeons and I'm going to drill here and we'll bring this through here and we'll staple that there. And I thought, oh, geez, I don't want to do that. Anyway, I hopped on my bike and it's good, and that dopamine you get from riding a skateboard and all that sort of stuff, you're getting that all the time you're riding your bike. So it's good, but it means, particularly when you plan on having a bike, and again, we're living closer to the shop, but close to where we are now, but it's a 10-minute bike ride, but I just ride my bike. It's not like I'm going to hop in the car or whatever. I just ride my bike, or if I'm going down the beach, I'll ride my bike. Or
they call that incidental activity.
Yeah, and I'm only doing 10 minutes a couple of times a day, but when you're doing it consistently, but that was like you said, the bad things that happened. But I blew out my knee at 18, but I hopped on my bike just to like to get that core strength across it and means my hips are really tight.
Did you have to have surgery?
I had what's called an arthroscopy.
Yeah.
And which they put the little cuts in and they put the little arthroscope, and that was, you know how old I am, so it's over 40 years ago. And no, I didn't know if it was doing anything. They've done research in Germany where they actually put the little cuts in some people and did the arthroscopy in other people, and the recovery rates were exactly the same. Like people thinking that they were going to get better because they had an arthroscopy, it didn't do anything. So I did have surgery, but I don't think it really made the difference. But no, over that time my knees recovered, and like I said, I had pain in other parts of my body, but generally not my knee. But
so it's fine now.
Yeah, but when you talk about other things that I'm doing, like doing body work, and for me, finding a body worker that you like, because I think, or you feel like you're getting results, or if you're not getting results, keeping on looking and all the rest of it. Because yes, people go, I've tried this and it didn't work and all the rest of it. I'd still be trying until I got to a point where I was out of pain. And when you said, that's a cop-out, some people are in pain all the time, and it's incredibly debilitating.
And it's their new normal, though.
Yeah, and it's all that neurology, that Norman Doidge changed your brain and all that sort of stuff. If you have chronic pain, it's not helpful. Acute pain is super useful because it says maybe don't do the 7 flights rail riding next time, or pull your hand out of the fire or whatever. But if you have chronic pain, basically you're overworking that neurological pathway. You're going, oh, gee, my shoulder hurts. Oh, my shoulder's hurting. Oh, gee, my shoulder hurts. 2 million pieces of information that we process every day. What you're trying to do is make some of that information not about the pain. So chronic pain, where it becomes all-encompassing, is not important. But, how you have a crying baby, you put them on your hip and you take them outside and they'll calm down because there's suddenly a whole lot of other information they're getting which will settle in them and calm them.
Yeah, but when it's a little bit more insidious, right, the chronic pain.
Yeah.
You will just put up with it forever.
Put up with it forever, but you're trying to find other ways. So, like I said, I play volleyball. If I'm playing indoor volleyball and I'm always running late and all the rest of it, I'll jump out of the car and I'll start running into the stadium. Like I said, I'm an old guy and go, oh, gee, that hurts. And I hate running, but I'll run after a ball forever. But, the thing is that I'll do that and I'll get on the court and there'll be no pain because all I'm thinking about is the ball and where the ball's going and what's happening and what's all the rest. So there's no room for pain information about it, And I'm sure if you're hopping on a board and you go, gee, my knee's hurting and all that sort of stuff, but you go, well, hey, look at how much air I got on that. And it's all about that. Your brain's thinking about that all the time.
Well, skaters are notorious for that, for just like pushing through pain until it's at the point where they just literally can't do it anymore, but they will put up with it and put up with it and put up with it. And sometimes it does. It takes a completely broken leg before they stop. I mean, that myself included. And I think that's what I did with my ankle. I was like, I can still do stuff. It's okay,
But
until it wasn't.
But I mean, I think, you're an extreme sportsman compared to me. I'm going playing volleyball and I'm running forward and backwards and sideways. I might fall over and get a wood burn on my knee or something. That's generally, or I might land on somebody's foot at the net and get an ankle out of it or whatever. But I'm not trying to do extreme moves or anything like that, which I think you're more likely to injure. But the desire to get to nail that move pushes past that and pushes through that pain barrier. And I don't think you're necessarily feeling it just because you're so focused on what that move is or what that result is that you're trying to achieve.
So you mentioned vitamin D for improve immunity.
Yep.
And you mentioned magnesium. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because I did have that written down. I want to talk about magnesium. Yep. What is it exactly and why is it good for you?
So like I said, I'm 60. I go on my boys' weekend. I used to think that I was one of two on the boys' weekend that wasn't on cardiovascular meds. I realise I'm actually the only one. For me, low magnesium intake generally reflects as cardiovascular disease for men and low bone density for women, and they're two sides of the same coin. When we're stressed, we use truckloads of it, and living in the 21st century is a stressful process. And when we're producing cortisol, we're using truckloads of magnesium. The thing being that we'll always have enough magnesium in our blood because we'll take it from wherever we need to do the 350 reactions we need it for. the symptoms of anxiety are the same as symptoms of magnesium deficiency. And I'm not saying that's the only thing, but it's true.
Can you repeat that?
The symptoms of anxiety are the same as the symptoms of magnesium deficiency. So sometimes just putting some magnesium back in can actually help dramatically with your anxiety.
Wow.
Which is
I wonder
great.
how many people know that.
Yeah.
But you are cautious to say that that's the cure?
Oh, yeah, I mean, because
You're not saying that.
So many things driving it, but for me,
it could be something to assist.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's helping everything. So you've got a younger audience, and
actually, you know what? I looked at the analytics. The primary audience of this podcast is 25 to 45-year-old men.
Yeah. So 45, generally, up until the last 4 or 5 years, cardiovascular is only for men over 50, but now it's for 25-year-olds and stuff. 4 of my nephews ended up with pericarditis and all that sort of stuff. So it's big, and cardiovascular health is bad. Having issues with cardiovascular health is bad, but these nephews, I've got them all on magnesium. I've got them on all these other things, and basically they're getting on with life and doing well with it. But cardiovascularly, magnesium, if you have enough magnesium in your blood vessels, they can relax, and that will normalise your blood pressure. If you have magnesium in your cardiac muscle, it means that the cardiac muscle can relax enough to get a proper backstroke to give you a proper forward stroke, so it makes that pump work better. And that can be, it's even magnesium's been things, valve prolapse. So if you have a residual tension in your cardiac muscle, making the hole for your valve smaller means that the flap for the valve won't fit properly. So if you can get that magnesium back into your cardiac muscle, sometimes, and there's no reasonable research on it, will actually allow that valve to work in the way that it should in the first place. It's also really, really important for that proper conduction, like of nerves. So that's in terms of mood and all the rest of it, but it's also things like your tachycardias and your bradycardias and all those things where your heartbeat isn't normal, related to low magnesium, to the point where one of the standard things that they do when you have a heart attack is actually put you on a magnesium drip.
Do they?
Absolutely.
In the mainstream
traditional
medicine.
Traditional medicine. It was interesting.
Do you like that term?
Traditional medicine. And that's another thing I'd love to touch on, but we're opening lots of boxes. It'd be good to close.
Let's stick with magnesium, because I've got a few more questions about magnesium.
It's important for that. I can't remember what else I was going to say. But dosage is super important.
Thank you. Why?
And forms of magnesium.
Okay, so first question is, like, when I take magnesium, and everyone says, I've heard it's really good for you, but it doesn't. It seems like it makes me sick in the stomach.
Yeah. So you're buying magnesium in the wrong place.
Right. Okay. So from what I understand, there's a few different types of magnesium. Yes. Do you know what they are?
Surprising enough, I've got a pretty good idea.
What are they, and what do you recommend? I mean,
for me, that's what I was saying in terms of where you buy your magnesium is important, unless you're very specific about how you're buying it.
Okay.
So there's something called magnesium oxide. Okay. So I'm lucky enough to get regular colonoscopies. And what I do is I don't eat for a day, and what they do is say, hey, here you have this magnesium oxide at the end of the day. And because it's so bound, magnesium and oxygen bound so tightly together, it doesn't actually dissociate in your gut. And it tracks lots and lots of water into your gut, which is really good if you're trying to wash the walls of your bowel so they can get a good picture for your colonoscopy, but not really good at all for trying to improve your magnesium status. So if you just go, oh, here's my I'll go and buy some magnesium. You go to the supermarket, oh, here's one. It's got, look at all this magnesium. Oh, gee, it's a good price. Yeah, I'll buy that one. But even Blackmore's conceptually a good brand. And if they didn't sell so much of it, they'd probably go, well, here's this other form of magnesium which can make a difference. But their magnesium is basically all magnesium oxide. And if you had 2 of them, it'd actually blow out your bum.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. So I'll give you the runs.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're going to the supermarket or if you're going to the discount pharmacy or whatever, and going, oh, here's a magnesium, just checking, as long as it doesn't have magnesium oxide in it, you're going to end up with a reasonable form of magnesium.
Okay, so avoid magnesium
Oxide, yeah.
So generally that's what because there's supplements that say Coles and Woolies.
Yeah, and watch out for anything that says magnesium fort.
Magnesium fort, because people think fort's strong.
They've got 400 milligrams of magnesium, fantastic. It's all magnesium oxide. No.
And it's going to give you the runs.
Yeah. Or not, it'll give you gut discomfort.
Because I've got very sensitive bowels.
Yeah.
I think it's hereditary in my family. My grandfather died of bowel cancer.
Yeah. So,
and my grandfather before him too as well.
And so we've got to talk on herbs. We've got to talk about the link between digestion and mood and all that sort of stuff. But keep going.
Okay, I like to recap as we go because it's a big information dump.
Let's do a little bit more on magnesium. So dosage is super important. There's a whole lot of research on magnesium at 350 milligrams a day. So if you imagine your recommended daily intake, your RDI, ideally from dietary, if they say if you had 350 milligrams a day of dietary magnesium, you should be fine. There's all this research saying that magnesium doesn't affect blood pressure at 350 milligrams as a supplement. So that's not taking into account what people are having in their food. It's about people having magnesium as a supplement, and it's not enough. And there's various studies that basically reinforce this. But if you can get up to 600 milligrams a day, which is what I'm telling people to have, you will get positive change generally.
600 milligrams a day.
Because you want enough for your day-to-day, and then you want to have enough to actually start putting back into your tissues.
600 milligrams a day of magnesium per day, but not
magnesium oxide.
Not magnesium oxide.
Unless you're constipated, which is important.
Okay,
right?
There we go. Right.
And there's magnesium citrate. And magnesium citrate, there is actually gastroenterologists suggesting people have magnesium citrate as a gentle laxative. Because, again, if you have around 400 milligrams of magnesium citrate, that will blow out your bum too.
Okay. So that's a digestive one.
The magnesium oxide, that trigger is a lot closer, but I think the magnesium citrate, I've never done it.
Yeah.
It will help keep you moving. But as long as you're not having oxide, it's good. And if you're having even 100 milligrams of magnesium a day, what you're doing is reducing your cardiovascular risk and all that sort of stuff, but it's not necessarily enough to institute lasting change.
Okay, so vitamin D and magnesium daily.
Yep.
They're a good combo, good friends. Yep. And ultimately they're going to relax muscles, improve immunity. Mm-hmm. So you're reducing muscle tension. Yep. You said it could be linked to anxiety.
Oh, no, it very definitely is linked to anxiety.
So magnesium is going to reduce cortisol, like hormone or maybe...
Not necessarily, but when you're producing cortisol, you're using magnesium. When you're anxious, you're using magnesium, and putting the magnesium back in is an important thing. Sometimes putting it back in can be enough for your anxiety, but not...
It's not going to feed... It's not going to feed the...
No.
It's not going to go, okay, well, I've got a supply of magnesium here, I'll keep producing cortisol.
No.
Sorry,
and cortisol is a part of our stress response, but cortisol is what we produce. Very simplistically, is what we produce to dampen the inflammation that occurs as part of our stress response.
Okay.
Yeah.
Epic. Vitamin D. I'm going to go from the very start. The 3 C's for good joints: curcumin, collagen, and core. I love that, and a bit of barefoot stuff, which we touched on. Is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Day-to-day health, vitamin D.
Yeah.
So I get the little vitamin D from the supermarket, little capsules.
Not enough, man.
So how many? What if I took a whole bunch? I take one a day.
Good.
How many should I take?
5. 5.
I take one.
One's all right. So we talk about this 75 nanomoles per mil. If you have one of those a day, generally you'll be at that, unless you have issues with your liver, turning that into your blood vitamin D.
What if I'm surfing every day?
Do I still need it? Yeah, you slip, slap, and I'm looking at you. You're tan, but you also have an olive complexion.
Yes.
So closer we get to the equator, the more olive our skin is. Melanoma's a bitch, right? And slip, slap is important. Okay, you're just showing me your melanoma scar. So it's important, but the last time they looked, 1 in 2 people in Victoria and 2 people in 5 in New South Wales were actually under 50 nanomoles per mil.
Right, and we live in the sunburnt country.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's huge.
It's weird.
That February 28th last year, so February 28th, 2024, they released a meta-analysis. So they looked at 19 papers with 1.2 million participants. This is basically in response to people using vitamin D as part of COVID. They used therapeutic doses of 3,200 to 5,000 IU, which is this 5,000 I'm talking to you about. They actually, two of the papers, one of them used a control dose of 2,000 IU, one of them used a control dose of 800 IU. So even using double what they're saying is enough in Australia as a control dose, they're not actually expecting to get any positive change.
So good, dude. This is so good.
So good. Oh, I talk this stuff all day.
No, great.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, what they found is it was actually 85% effective at stopping people getting COVID in the first place and 78% effective at keeping people out of ICU.
Vitamin D.
At 5,000 IU a day, not your 1,000 IU a day.
Yeah.
For me, vitamin D really, really cardioprotective. And again, normalising vitamin D, which as I'm saying is 120 nanomoles per mil, really cardioprotective. Magnesium, and no one's having therapeutic doses of magnesium. I mean, some people are, but no, and people are getting the idea around it. Yeah. Fish oil, CoQ10, magnesium, I'm reasonably sure that they're all doing that. The biggest thing, they come and buy these big bags of magnesium off me, which is just magnesium glycinate, really soluble form.
Yeah.
And easy to get that 600 milligrams, because otherwise it can be tricky. You're having tablets that are big, and particularly if you're having forms which you can absorb. Because the magnesium glycinate, which is reasonably freely available, we've got glycine, and glycine's actually an amino acid. So attaching a magnesium molecule to a glycine molecule. So only about 15% of what you have is actually magnesium. Anyway.
Interesting. No, it's so interesting. Yeah. And, I want to sort of go into how you integrate, I guess, traditional herbal practices with like modern health practices.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming that you would have people come into your store who may have terminal illness and have tried everything else.
We've all got a fucking terminal illness, man.
Okay. I guess we're all going to die.
Absolutely.
But, okay, let's reframe it. People who are coming to you with a very definitive end date.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's something that somebody's laid over the top and all the rest of it. They're very specific things. Thing is that when people have been given a date, they become very, very vulnerable, and I'm very hesitant to step into that space and say, here you go, have this stuff, it's going to be amazing, and you're going to live forever and all that sort of stuff. But like I said, women living south of Coffs Harbour, double the breast cancer of those living north of Coffs Harbour, so normalising vitamin D can make a huge difference. Vitamin C, most of the people that I know that have a strong game against big diagnoses are doing IV vitamin C. Okay. Vitamin C, great, but again, getting it through your bowels is a really tricky thing. But there's things which I've become more aware of. Sticking vitamin C up your wazoo can be actually, give a similar sort of effect. So,
is it of absorption?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're
like rapid absorption.
If you're I'm not saying you. If people are snorting drugs. And I've seen on the telly people get that rush straight away and all that sort of stuff. I've never got into white powders because I have enough trouble with everything else. But whatever it is sitting against your nasal membrane, it basically ending in the bloodstream directly. We talk about sublingually, and there's a lot of things that you can put under your tongue, and you're getting that very similar pathway directly into the bloodstream. B12 is probably the most obvious example of that. But if you can get the vitamin C into your bowel, your bowels is really porous and your body's putting things in and out of it all the time. If you're constipated and you have a big drink of water, often that's enough within a few minutes or a minute to actually get your bowel to move, because the water moves into and out of it so quickly.
So you think we should all be getting colonoscopies or colon hydrotherapy and stuff?
Oh no, I'm not a big fan of that, because I think that I'm not a big fan of enemas necessarily, because your microbiome is so important. And I think washing it away. I mean, if you have fecal loading and all that sort of stuff, yes, it's going to really dramatically affect your body's ability to work properly. But I wouldn't suggest for everybody to go and have a regular colonoscopy. And I'm sure people would argue with me about that, but it's not something that I think is good. But what I'm saying is if you've got a dramatic disease state, so sepsis is basically end stage. If you end up in the hospital with sepsis, they're calling in your family and going, time to see you later. IV vitamin C. And again, there was good research during the last 5 years on IV vitamin C, at that point, and it's amazing what it does for sepsis, but it's amazing what it does for really dramatic immune disease or whatever. When I'm basically talking cancer, but if you have vitamin C, and for me, if any of your audience are going, shit, what do I believe and all that sort of stuff, if you just Google IV vitamin C cancer and put scholarly at the end of it, basically what you'll get is the research papers that are associated with that. So you can go, I listened to this podcast or I did whatever and such said, if you're trying to work out whether you believe it or not, putting whatever it is and scholarly at the end of it generally will give you a reasonable idea of whether it's based on some sound science or whether it's just an opinion. And for me, watching out for people's opinion, and in saying that, people are listening to my opinion, or if they care about what I'm saying.
Do you think we should be taking as a preventative vitamin C every day?
I don't.
Okay.
I take vitamin D every day. I take magnesium every day. If I've got a cold, I'll have vitamin C.
So vitamin C is a remedy.
I mean, yeah, but no,
because I take it every day just to be safe.
Yeah, well, it's good, and that for me, like I said, I have a silly amount of everything, and it's interesting saying I'm going to age gracefully, and suddenly I had a 5-hour response to COVID, but I was tired for 18 months. I'm going, shit, what can I do to help? No.
Someone said that too.
No, that's me. That's me. So I'm having silly amounts of things, and I'm not paying what people are.
Silly what? Sorry.
Amounts of things.
Silly amounts of things. Sorry.
So not psyllium as a.
Sorry.
I have way too many things. I mean, maybe I do and maybe I don't. Okay. But I'm talking this stuff with people all the time, and every time I'm talking to someone about it, I'm going, oh, gee, I better have that too. But I don't have vitamin C. So I had a cold. No, I didn't have a cold. I had a sore throat on Monday. So we're here on Thursday. I had a sore throat on Monday and I felt a little bit low and all the rest of it. So I've got a tablet combination, and there's lots of them about that have andrographis. So andrographis is the number one herb for sore throats, but echinacea and olive leaf. They also have zinc and vitamin C, which is, for me, it's about getting that immune system fighting at the time. What I also did was big amounts of a particular form of vitamin D called calcifediol. So calcifediol is basically the form that the liver releases the vitamin D from. And like I was saying, when you're fighting something, you deplete your vitamin D stores, but I thought I'm going to have 10 tablets of this calcifediol, and I did that on Monday. They dissolved quite well, and I was holding them in my mouth, and they're very chalky, and anyway, it wasn't very nice, but by the time I did 10 on Wednesday, I was pretty much used to it. But I did that on Monday. I woke up Tuesday, Mary, my wife, gave me, because I was choking on my mucus when I was in bed, and she's going, I better get you some water. And I said, I can have some salt in it. So she had to go downstairs instead of just going to the bathroom and filling up the tap. Anyway, she wasn't happy, but it did make a huge difference, and finally I got to sleep and all of that. Anyway, that was Monday night, so mucusy sore throat wasn't a thing. Tuesday morning I woke up and I said, no, it still wasn't fabulous. And so I booked a sauna. I thought, I'll go and have a sauna. Just if I can heat my body up to above 40 degrees, which is what your body's doing when it's having a temperature or whatever, I felt that was a good thing. Anyway, again, I had the things, the andrographis, zinc and vitamin C, echinacea, olive leaf, yada, yada. High dose of that throughout the day. By the time, at 6 o'clock, I went for my sauna going, actually, I'm fine. I don't need it. And here we are a couple of days later. I mean, you can hear my voice, it's a little bit whatever, but I don't know how we got onto that. But
no, it's good because, okay, so again, recap, I got a cold or a flu.
Yeah.
No.
A vitamin C, whether you have vitamin C all the time.
Vitamin D and magnesium every day.
Yep.
For overall good health,
Yep.
and homeostasis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love.
Then,
great word, man.
Thank you, man. And then I got a cold, I got a flu.
Yeah.
Common cold and flu, we all get it. It
Yeah.
sucks. We're
Yeah.
going into winter.
Yeah.
Insert vitamin C up your ass.
No. Only if you had sepsis. So if you were
No, not sepsis, but no, I got a cold or flu, so I'm taking vitamin C. That's,
had the vitamin C, and that's the amount that you get through your bowel.
Well, give me some dosage then. If I'm sick.
So gen standard dosage.
1,000 milligrams.
No, 5,000.
5,000.
There's something called bowel saturation with vitamin C, and that's the thing, getting it through your bowel into your bloodstream.
Because I buy a powder form, I drink it.
Yeah, and that's good. But
Okay.
it's and I have more of a concept of what you're doing when you're having the bowel saturation. You're getting it in there, and ideally you're getting enough to actually make a wholesale difference to what's going on.
So vitamin C, echinacea, olive leaf extract.
Andrographis particularly.
Andrographis?
Andrographis. There's a company that was selling one of those combinations of andrographis and all the rest of it, and there was a whole lot of people really scared that they were going to die over the last 5 years, and they were having big amounts of andrographis over a long period of time, and it's not a good thing. There's various issues associated with that, but if you're just having that andrographis at the time, fighting a cold, it's fine. Very hard to have too much. Zinc, vitamin C, all that sort of stuff.
Zinc is a remedy or zinc daily?
Zinc daily, I would suggest. Most of all for mood. Okay. So we all have leaky gut. When we're stressed, we produce neurotoxins. Ideally, we're pushing them out through our lymphatic system. We all have leaky gut, so that leaks into our bowel, and then we've got to clear it out from our bloodstream, which we do in our kidneys, and that depletes our zinc and B6. And a lot of issues associated with anxiety can be related to low B6. So all of us generally have quite, leveraged lives. So life's busy, the minds are busy and all that sort of stuff. So zinc, I think, is a good thing.
Okay.
Big B6 is good, but again, B6, some's good, but I do know 3 individual people that have actually ended up with B6 toxicity. So it's interesting. I'm hesitant to tell people to have B6 now. Some, yes, but if you're having, all the zinc tablets basically have zinc in them. So you go, I'm going to have more zinc. You end up with a high dose. You have a multivitamin, you have B6, you have a magnesium complex, and it'll have B6 in it. And if you're having all that B6, you can end up with a B6 toxicity, which can take quite a while to clear. And that's sort of, various tingling and a whole lot of discomfort associated.
Okay. All right, so we've got ligaments and joints covered with the 3 C's.
Yep.
The Ian and Shannon 3C method. we just created.
Yeah, we're the guys.
Curcumin, collagen, core, vitamin D every day, magnesium every day, which may also assist with anxiety, issues with anxiety, right? If you've got a cold and flu going into winter, get the vitamin C into you. Echinacea is a safe one, and olive leaf extract. And that other stuff you're talking about, I don't know. I'm not entirely. I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about before, and because I don't want to. We can go on for all days.
Yeah.
But the things I want to touch on the most, I love it, dude. I love this. Thank you.
It's good.
Thank you. And the last thing I want to touch upon is good sleep.
Yep.
Okay, I'll share my experience.
Yep.
I am a bad sleeper. I have been most of my life. To the point where it's caused great distress. And I go through periods of really poor sleep. I won't sleep for a month. Like maybe 2 hours a night for a month. And I'm really, and early days, I really linked it to mental illness.
Yeah.
Older days where I feel very much better mentally, and really good mentally.
Yeah.
And then every now and then it'll happen, and it definitely feels physiological.
Yeah,
and after talking to you, I think maybe I've just discovered maybe it's a magnesium deficiency or something.
Magnesium can make a huge difference. So in terms of nervous system,
keep going. What are some basic recommendations for improving sleep? Whether it requires a herbal medicine or remedy, or another approach, maybe an alternative therapy.
So 2 parts to our nervous system, very simplistic. Our flight or fight, sympathetic nervous system, and our parasympathetic, like our wounds in a cave. we have serotonin, and serotonin is what stops us going towards panic. So, it's all part of the same scale. So you have interested, which is sympathetic, bored, which is parasympathetic.
Yeah.
Busy, tired, frantic, exhausted, and panicked and depressed. It's all part of that same spectrum. Serotonin is what stops us going towards panic. And while we're living elevated lifestyles, we use a lot of serotonin, which is, and there's various things that you can do for that. But if we don't have serotonin, we can't produce melatonin. So we need melatonin to be able to flick the switch and be able to go to sleep. For me, hygiene is super important, and the thing is that if you're tired and you're frantic because you're tired, that's really, really awful. But if we're on our phone, we talked about the dopamine, and I call our phone junk food dopamine. If we're on our phone or we're watching television or a show, if we go to sleep watching that, they're not doing a good job. Their job is to stimulate us and keep us awake and do all that sort of stuff. When we read a book, what happens is we replace the narrative that's keeping us awake with the narrative of the book. And when we build that imagery, it actually makes us super tired. The white horse on the yellow field and all that sort of stuff. But, you're a father. It's about looking for your tired signs. So if you have, long eyelid dip, or you go, hang on, I can't, what did that last paragraph say? Or, things start swelling a little bit. You go, all right, now's the time. And there's a couple of little tools that you can use to help with that. So oxygen is super important because it allows us to climb mountains and run away from tigers and do all that sort of stuff. Carbon dioxide is what actually anchors us into our parasympathetic nervous system. So if we can go through a process, where we breathe out longer than we breathe in, we'll artificially bring that carbon dioxide up, and that carbon dioxide will actually help us get into that sleep space a lot more easily. But if we're controlling our breath, basically it becomes a meditative process. So I talk about a box breath, which I think a lot of you would be aware of. So it's breathing in 2, 3, 4, 5, hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then see how long you can actually hold the outward breath for. There's lots of examples on that, but it doesn't really matter as long as you're doing some point of in and hold and out and hold.
The out has to be longer than the in.
No. Basically. So you're only breathing in for a quarter of that cycle.
Got you.
So on the rest of it, you're holding your breath or breathing out.
Okay.
But when we hold our breath, it's actually really very, very useful because your brain, our whole autonomic nervous system is reliant on the fact that we're breathing. So when you hold your breath, it's sort of like your nervous system goes, what was that? And just getting, that meditation is conceptually getting into that space between thoughts. And when you're holding your breath, it's actually, can be quite an effective way of doing that. If I'm agitated, I might go in, hold, out. And if we're agitated, it's actually quite useful because it means, if you're only getting 2 hours a night for
I'm good. I'm pretty good now.
Yeah, but if you're agitated because of that, obviously that's a different thing. But if your sleeping patterns are generally pretty good and you're agitated, just breaking that up, like we talked about release of cortisol. If we're in a stress response, we release some cortisol, and that cortisol is actually very soothing, and that can be quite useful for getting us off to sleep. So if it's 5:30 in the morning, I'm getting up at 7, and I go, geez, I just want some more sleep, I might hold my breath out for 30 or 40 or even 50 to the point where I go, and it doesn't matter because you're not going to die because you'll just start breathing again. But doing that can be enough to just shake up my brain to do that. So my suggestion is to do all that first, and also taping your mouth. So if you tape your mouth at night, basically, if you're mouth breathing during the day, and generally we all are, you're going to mouth breathe at night, particularly if you have an exciting dream, or an agitating dream, and basically the mouth breathing, you hyperventilate, you push yourself into the sympathetic nervous system, and you wake up. So a little bit of tape, and it just only needs to be about the size of a postage stamp on your lips, can be really useful. But I think a lot of people touch on that. Big thing is that if you're a big mouth breather, the whole concept of actually putting something across your lips is really, you go, I can't ever do that.
You feel like you're suffocating.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that feeling, the carbon dioxide coming up, the feeling is a panic. It's like trying to swim underwater and get to the end of the pool, and that fear is real, man.
But then you get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're building your carbon dioxide tolerance.
Yeah, so mouth taping. And I use nasal strips to open up my So I'll mouth tape and do that.
Yeah.
And it actually started because this company reached out to me and said, "Hey, can we send you some nasal strips and mouth tape?
Yeah.
If you promote us, we'll give you an affiliate code, whatever." Tried it. I'm like, oh my God. And it's actually been the biggest game changer into my sleep.
Yeah.
And so now when I don't use it, if I'm away or I forget to put it on, I naturally am breathing through my nose. And I must admit, I wake up feeling like so much more refreshed. Yeah, and it's like it's trained my nasal passages. And I used to be someone who'd go, oh, I've got a deviated septum. My nasal passages aren't clear. You know what? It's actually not true. I just think I haven't been using them enough. And it's like, and now they're actually working properly.
Yeah, I mean, if you have inflamed tissue in there, if you're mouth breathing generally, that will be something that conceptually you can do something about. There's an ear, nose, throat surgeon in Malaysia that hasn't taken out tonsils and adenoids for 4 years.
So it's a myth. It's
not
a myth.
It's not a myth, but and there's dentists that do these amazing X-rays, so you can sit there and you can look at where your teeth are. You can look at the infections in gums. You can look at where your sinuses are. You look at airway and all that sort of stuff, and it's all in one thing. But I also know speech pathologists that are looking at that, and they go to these people, well, unless you can do something to clear that out, you're not going to. It's going to be really, really hard. I go through a process where I'm ideally helping people get to the point where they can breathe through their nose consistently. That whole thing, and you might have come across it where you hold your nose and you tilt your head to either side and you do that for 5 each side. Then you put something in between your lips so your lips will stay closed. Your body finds it a lot harder to trick us into doing that. Making sure you're doing your diaphragmatic breathing, so humming and all that sort of stuff. But if people can breathe through their nose conceptually for 40 seconds, there's nothing necessarily physiologically going to stop you from doing that all the time. But I've seen people, and you go through that process and you see people and they're in their sympathetic, they've got really small pupils and they're really agitated and all that sort of stuff. But after 40 seconds, they're going to sleep because they've hit that parasympathetic nervous system. But yeah, the restriction and all that sort of stuff is real. Taping your mouth. The only other thing I was saying is that do all that stuff first, and then if you're still not asleep after 15 minutes, take whatever it is that you're having. Your valerian is isolated from Valium, and really quite an effective sedative for people. But
I find melatonin doesn't work.
So melatonin, if you're doing melatonin, make sure you're doing it sublingually.
Under the tongue.
Yeah, because like I said, the melatonin is what will flick the switch. If you're having melatonin as a tablet, and I think you can, I'm old enough to get a script for 3 milligram melatonin, but generally it's enterically coated, so it's actually got a sustained release on it. But for me, using the melatonin as a tool to get you into that sleep process is what I would suggest using it for. Not necessarily going, I'm going to have it every night and do it. But yeah, I believe if you're having the melatonin, and even if it's an enterically coated tablet, just chew it up and hold it in your mouth. And then it's getting into your bloodstream quickly because you want that, and you get back on your book and you go, oh, there's my tired sign. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, because what I was finding was getting me to sleep.
Yeah.
But then 2 hours later, I'd be awake.
So anything that you have, basically your body will work through within about 4 hours.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what sleeping draft you're having. Your body will deal with it within 4 hours.
Interesting.
So find whatever works for you, and there's lots of things.
CBD oil has really helped me.
Yeah, so CBD oil is working on your endocannabinoid pathways and can really help with anxiety and all that sort of stuff. And for me, it's maybe you're getting that thing when you're going to sleep, and I don't know. I'm not a CBD practitioner. But it's also helping your anxiety. If you're helping your anxiety, you're holding onto your serotonin. You're holding onto your serotonin, you can produce your melatonin.
Oh, you've just explained it. Excellent.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I take stuff that has no THC in it or very trace
very
amounts.
little, yeah.
And because that was a big one for me. I don't want any psychoactive ingredients.
Yeah.
And
if you've got a history of
it has been,
health, yeah.
but I've also felt like because I've got a bit of a funny knee at the moment,
Yeah.
and sometimes I've rubbed into my knee, and I feel like there's some results there.
Yeah.
So I've heard that it also helps with inflammation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, your stress response is your inflammatory response. Like I said, high cortisol is basically your body's response to the inflammation that simplistically occurs when you're stressed.
Yeah, dude. Wow. Info dump. How you feeling?
Good, man.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, I think we've covered a lot of solid stuff, and I don't want to just information dump people, but I think there's some real strong things there for foundational health. I do want to just sort of start to wind up with some more philosophical questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess the first one I've got is around, how do you feel like the general public's perception of herbal medicine has evolved? Or is there still high degrees of skepticism?
I think, anybody that's drunk a cup of tea, they're practicing herbal medicine,
Oh, well played, sir.
Yeah, or coffee or whatever,
Okay.
And tea is amazing. The Chinese revere it, it's sort of like a panacea, fixes everything and all the rest of it. But
Is that what you say to people that are skeptical of you? Because I'm sure you've come under scrutiny.
I don't, no, not really. And that's the joy of working in the shop. Because people won't come in if they're not interested. It's only people who are interested coming. And I'm happy to talk if it came down to that. There's the dean of the local university that's saying, "Oh, there's never a place for supplementation. Oh, we all should get it from food," and it's really quite bizarre. She's the dean of nutrition. And I've seen her in the local paper saying, "Oh yeah, everybody should be on the Ozempic," and I'm going, "What the?" I thought you were.
I missed the whole Ozempic thing. What is it? Is that ignorant of me to ask?
I mean, it does amazing things, but people feel nauseous all the time and all the rest of it. But yeah, if somebody's obese, their health outcomes are very limited, and having it can make a huge difference. But
so it's for obesity. I didn't even know that.
Oh, no, it's for diabetes, but it works, the pathways that it's working on, like your leptin pathways, your satiety pathways, but generally people have it and they feel sick, so they don't feel like eating. But, comparing that to cutting out somebody's stomach, 80% of someone's stomach so they can't eat, I don't know.
So is it helping with type 2 diabetes as well?
That's what the drug is.
So helping with insulin production?
Yeah, I don't really know the pathways. I'm not really interested. But people are having it and getting pretty amazing results.
Yeah. So in Australia, right, in 2023.
Anyway, I just want to come back.
Go.
The woman saying that Ozempic, never a place for supplementation, and hopefully I've given some people some idea of how important, putting things in your diet can be. She's going, never a place for supplementation, but she's saying, everybody should be on Ozempic. So is she the dean of pharmacology or dean of medicine? Which is medicine is pharmacology, or is she the dean of nutrition? I don't get that at all. Anyway, shut up and get on.
No, it's really very bizarre and interesting.
Yeah.
But I just want to. This is it's a philosophical question, and I'm curious because in the last financial year, like 2023, 2024, the pharmaceutical benefits scheme in Australia was reported that the government expenditure on pharmaceuticals was $17.7 billion. That was government subsidies for the use of pharmaceutical medication, which actually apparently covers 91.6% of total medicine costs. And then from that, patients, because it's a subsidy, patients, the average everyday user is spending $1.6 billion out of pocket. Okay. I guess what I want to ask you is, where do you philosophically see the future of herbal medicine in your view? Do you think it could?
So my mission, it is the future. It's the only way.
Have you seen an evolution though? Have you seen an increase in?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody was scared shitless, and we were never busier. We had the COVID-led recovery. Everyone's going, "What can I do? What can I do?" When there was a virus that nobody had the answer to. Vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, sort out basically any virus. Anyway, my point being that people have come to us, and I think there's a whole lot of skepticism now. I think the curtain's fallen down in a lot of ways where they go, actually, this is who we really are. So people are doing it. So some huge number of people are using our stuff. But it's interesting, I've been in the industry for 25 years, and the level of respect that naturopaths have now is really quite incredible. I think in terms of trust, it's pretty amazing. But naturopaths are always either these gentle souls that fail to launch, so they're not able to go on, the 4 or 5 years that they're doing their medical science degree based on everything except pharmaceuticals. They're not able to use it because they're not able to apply it, or the people that are good and they go, oh, hey, look at all this amazing stuff, and they burn out. I truly think that part of my mission is supporting those people that are doing that, because they're the future. They're what's going to get us through this,
I love that, man. Feel like it's a good way to end, bro.
All right.
Don't you reckon?
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, dude, thank you. It's been amazing and actually exceeded my expectations. I was like, man, I hope this guy's not a full weirdo.
Well, yeah, I am, but hey, that's a different story.
My people.
Yeah, right back at you.
Anyway, listen, here's the intro music. Ian Bell. Ian, where can people find you if they want to talk more?
Most health food stores will have somebody like me, a bit crazier or less crazier. Naturopaths, I think 90% of Go Vita stores and most health food stores will have that, and that's important. I'm at the Junction, which is in Newcastle, which is about 3 k's from where we're sitting right now, and I'm there 3 days a week. Great people to come talk to me. Yeah.
Go and meet Mr. Ian Bell, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Hey Marlon, do you like CBD oil?
Yes, I really do.
Wow. Are you a stoner?
You could consider as such, however.
But you can't get stoned off CBD oil.
I have heard that because it's only CBD, right? Not THC.
There you go. Well, THC is a psychoactive ingredient which is not in CBD oil.
I see.
There you go. So if you go to crushorganics.com, that's KRUSHORGANICS.com, and use code THT, you get 40% off. How does that make you feel on the inside?
That is very exciting. And my insides would be pleased with that CBD.
Dude, do you get sore muscles?
Very much so,
yes, man.
Very much so. Yes. And the CBD helps massively with that.
Dude, it does, man. So go to crushorganics.com. Yes.